What's happening, guys? It's Jeremy Blanton, and today I want to take a minute and discuss a Dave Ramsey video clip that I just recently watched, and I was blown away by some of the information and advice that Dave's now given. You know, I've seen and listened to him a lot over the years, and I've actually heard Dave Ramsey in person a couple times speak, and you know, one of his big things is have at least 20% down when buying a house, buy cash, don't take loans, don't do all that stuff. And he's actually recently changed some of his mindset. He's actually talking about the current real estate market in this clip. A person had asked into his show a question of, hey Dave, I'm looking to buy a house, but the way the market is right now, I can't get money saved up to purchase it. I can only get 5 to 10%. I can't get that 20% that you say I have to have. Should I wait to buy a house till I have 20%? Or should I go ahead and buy now even with less money for a down payment? What should I do? Are prices gonna drop? And check out what Dave had to say.
Prices are not gonna come down, Kevin. If you're waiting on prices to come down, you're not gonna buy a house ever. Prices are not coming down. They are going to slow the rate at which they are increasing, though. That's what George is referring to where the market cools off. Right now, asking price means suggest you start bidding here. And we want to get out of that kind of thing. And you're probably going to see that. We've seen interest rates.
Wasn't that kind of interesting what Dave said? Prices aren't dropping. If you're waiting for prices to drop, you're not going to buy a house. And I have to kind of agree with him. I don't see the prices dropping. I've shared with you guys many times over the last few weeks how I don't see the market shifting to where we're going to have this huge bubble burst and blow up like we had in the past. We're going to see prices to continually, steadily increase just the way they have for the last many, many years. And so if you're waiting to buy a house and trying to get 20% down, you're going to be waiting a while if you're waiting for them to drop too, because the prices aren't dropping. You know, it's also interesting, Dave also went on to say that the asking price is kind of the starting bid on properties. Yeah, it's been that way for a while here, and you may be saying, oh, well, inventory is going up now. There's going to be more houses. I'm going to be able to get better deals. Well, that's not really true. You know, I listed a property this last weekend. I put it on the market up in Little River for a client of mine. We listed it a little bit higher than I thought maybe we should, and, not completely out of line, but on the higher end of the strong market. And I had 2 offers on the property in the first 24 hours still. And I ended up selling the property for asking price as is, closing in 3 weeks, cash buyer. My sellers are extremely ecstatic to sell their house that fast. And so are there still buyers out there? You betcha. Now, are buyers going to overpay like they were in the past? Not as much right now. Part of that is because interest rates have gone up so much, they don't have that much extra spending play money like they used to. They have to now start to buy within their means. At the same time, all of those sellers who were out there saying, hey, let's test the market, are starting to now have to do reductions. Well, what do you mean by test the market? If I had told my seller, listen, let's put your home on the market for $400, and they said, Jeremy, we want to test the market and see what happens. Let's put it at $450. Well, that's way above what the market says we can afford right now and what that property is worth. So they're going out of line with what fair market value says right now. And what would happen is that property is going to sit a little bit longer because we're slowly starting to see the inventory start to shift. We're starting to see it at least level out. It hasn't started to spike back up with a bunch of inventory, but we're still at like 1.5 months inventory of properties on the market. As I've shared in the past, anything under 6 months inventory time is still considered a seller's market, which means they're in the driver's seat, they're running the show as to what's going on. Those properties, though, that were way out of line on price, well, they're the ones that are starting to see reductions. You know, I'm connected with agents all across the country. I've got probably about 4,000 Facebook friends right now, and probably 3,500 of them or more are realtors all across the country. And I see people saying all the time, oh, reductions, they're coming everywhere. Well, in our market, it's not that bad, number one. Number two, the ones that are being reduced are the ones that, well, they were out of line to start. So if things are priced right, they're going to continue to sell. And so here's the reality. Interest rates, yes, they've gone up. They used to be down in the 2s, maybe low 3s, and they're now hitting in the 5 to 6 range. And so what that's going to do is it's going to start to soften the market a little bit and start a little bit of a market correction. But here in Myrtle Beach, people are going to continue to move to Myrtle Beach no matter what. Why is that? Well, there's some constants that we have here that are never going to change. We're always going to have the beautiful weather that we have right now. People who are tired of shoveling snow, well, they're going to still want to move here because we don't have snow very often, and if we do, it's usually melted by lunchtime. And also, we continue to have some of the lowest property taxes in the United States. We're still ranked probably 6th lowest in the country. And so as long as those 3 things stay in place and our prices are so much less than other parts of the country, people are going to continue to move here left and right all the time. So we're going to continue to see a strong market here, even if everything around the country stops. Because here's the reality. Go back to 2008. Yeah, the market burst. The bubble burst, as they said, and the market slowed down. But still, people were buying houses. People still had to sell. People are still having children and they need to expand their family and need a larger home. People are having deaths or children moving out and they don't need as much space and want to downsize. People are still wanting to get out of cold and move. So those components are going to always be there, and there's still going to be a real estate market happening. People are still going to be buying and people are still going to be selling no matter what. Check out this other clip from Dave Ramsey's show.
But we've never seen house prices go down in the modern America, like since the 1930s, except one time. And that was for about 6 or 8 months in 2008.
So I found that segment of Dave Ramsey's show pretty interesting, that he shared, historically we only ever had property values go down once in the last 100 years. And what was even more interesting is what he said towards the end of that statement, is that what we experienced in 2008, it wasn't a real estate crisis, it was a financial lending crisis. Back then, people could get a loan by basically showing up somewhere and showing that they were alive. They could say the word house and they had $5 in the bank account. If you had those 3 things, they'd give just about anybody a loan out there. Well, nowadays, the market is definitely different. There's a lot more regulations that are in place, and lenders learn their lesson. They're not as quick to just throw money at people now. They want to make sure that those who are doing it can afford to pay it back. That if they're taking a loan, they're going to see the money come back. It's going to come back on time. People now that are buying, they have good credit scores, they have equity in their homes, and so there's a lot different now than what we had back in 2008. So overall, things are going to be a lot different in today's market versus what we had back then. The other part that I think is going to help to keep us from ever seeing any type of housing recession like we did before is that the law of supply and demand. Nowadays, there are way more buyers that are in the market purchasing than back in 2008. Back in 2008, the main generation that was buying up property at that time was basically the baby boomers. They were a huge generation that were buying. Well, the boomers are still buying houses now. They're still retiring. They're moving south. They're doing all those things. But now we have the millennial market as well. The millennials are out there, which add another 5 million buyers into the market right now. In addition to that, you add in the lack of supply. New home builders, they're not able to produce anywhere near what we had back in 2008. Why? Supply chain issues that we've talked about in the past are still there, and so there's a lot less inventory of property. So until you see that supply come way up, demand drop way down, you're not going to see the market slow down, and as long as the market doesn't slow down, prices surely aren't either. I would say, if I had to be a guessing man, probably this year we're going to see at least another 7 to 10% price increase over last year's time. So if you're thinking about buying that house and say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait for market to crash. I'm going to wait for prices to drop, and then I'm going to be able to come in and buy it for a deal. Well, you're in for a rude awakening, because it's not going to happen. You know how I know this is true? When Dave Ramsey's telling people to go out right now, buy the home with 5 to 10% down instead of waiting till you have the 20%, because in the long run, paying PMI, which is something you never see again, that mortgage insurance, which is about $75 per 100,000, you're wasting that money. But even wasting that is still a better value and a better financial decision than waiting to try to buy when you can afford it with 20% down, because prices are going to go up that much more. So in closing, guys, if you're thinking about buying a house, I would not wait and hope that the market crashes, because honestly, I don't see that really happening. Instead, I would try to save up some money right now, get that 5 to 10% down payment, and get a property sooner than later. Because if interest rates continue to go up, prices continue to go up, you're going to end up with a much less house than what you want. Unfortunately, you may not be able to get that house with the dog washing station or with, the heated tile floors and those things. You might have to adjust your expectations a little bit, but overall, being a homeowner is one of the greatest things you can do nowadays. If you have any other questions or want to learn more about this, my information's all down below. Feel free to reach out to me, hit me up with a contact, and I'll do what I can to help you. And as always, if you like today's video, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, get that bell on, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.